I'm Izak, and I'm very excited to bring you the next circle here live from Stratford upon Avon, glorious town. We had a bit of a walkthrough today, lovely sunny, so very excited to bring you the AgriLeader Circle. And tonight we're going to talk a bit about some leadership and management and how you don't need a title to be a leader. These guys have just joined us for the last couple of days at the AgriLeader Forum. Brilliant couple of days, and so we'll see a bit about some of their reflections about that, but we'll widen the conversation a bit and look at leadership and management in the broader sense. At AgriLeader, we did a bit of research a couple of years ago, and actually less than 0.5% of farmers actually engage with anything around leadership and management. Less than 0.5%. I mean, that was, for me, that was quite a bit of a shocking thing. So you know, what is the barriers? How do we improve that? What's your thoughts on leadership? So we'll talk a bit about that and what you thought of the conference for the last couple of days. So
well, me and Charlotte, it was our first ever conference.
Ever.
Yeah.
And they're going to be disrespectfully disappointed.
Good.
No, I mean anything after this is just going to be such a letdown.
Not going to be quite as good as this. So yeah, high expectations. Yeah, very.
I think it's a bit of a different conference, though, isn't it? It's not straight farming. The whole point of it is that it's getting speakers who maybe have some involvement in farming,
But not a lot.
So it's trying to bring outside ideas into our industry, which we kind of need to learn from other people sometimes.
I totally
What
agree.
I like as well is like sometimes like when I thought of a conference, I thought, oh, it's going to be somebody just out the front, like a whiteboard or just putting screens and stuff in front of you. But it was like very active, and like we built the pasta thing, didn't we, at the start? So we were building like pasta towers, like the icebreakers and stuff.
Some people were cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was cheaters, wasn't there?
Yeah. Olly cheated.
No, it didn't.
Ollie did.
Right, before we go any further, let's just remind people who you are and you know, and where you're from. Remember, and put some questions in there. We really want to hear from you. Where you're from, tell us where you're from, tell us whether you're farming or not. And yeah, so put your questions in there, see what these guys think about that. So where should we start? Ollie, let's start with you.
So Olly Harrison, a cereal farmer from near Liverpool. I am the NFU Northwest Crops Board chair as well at the moment.
I'm Rebecca Wilson, mixed farmer, sheep and arable. We're in North Yorkshire.
I'm Charlotte Ashley, and I am beef and sheep in Cumbria.
I'm Georgina Sammut. I am farming down in Lincolnshire on a mixture of flowers and cereals.
So I'm Joe Seels, beef finishing, mainly Aberdeen Angus, and a small arable side as well. So that's in South Yorkshire.
Woo!
Can I just say as well that we've some of us have got hold of phones because we can read the comments on it. So that's, I've got mine here.
I've got
Yeah.
Yeah,
If anyone wonders why we're
You're not just bored.
Yeah,
so-
comments.
Excellent. So yeah, let's carry on that conversation. As your first conference, what did you think of it?
It was quite inspiring to be not that you don't have to be the boss and in control of something. It was more like a mindset of how to go forward, and not even having anyone underneath you to, you know, boss about as such. It was more just working on yourself and the way that you present yourself and the way that you believe in yourself, which was quite different. And see yourself as a leader, which is quite peculiar, even though I'm not leading anybody other than a stray. Like, but it's interesting to, you know what I mean, to actually think of yourself as somebody who could be a leader of anything. But I think that social media, we definitely are, so we have to consider that and act quite responsibly.
Yeah. Like the I don't know, there was all sorts like psychology played a big part in it, didn't it? Like the growth mindset, and then I think one interesting thing somebody said was your brain doesn't accept don't and not. I don't know if you remember that from that guy saying. And it's like if you're like taking a penalty or something, and you're like, oh, don't mess up. There's more chance that you'll like mess up. I thought, oh, that's like, I've never really heard that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so what he said, I can't remember who the footballer was, he said he coached him, and he said when he's walking up to the goal, he's got one question in his mind, and he doesn't answer it till he's 2 paces from the ball, and that question in his mind is, which way am I going to run once I've scored, left or right? Because he's in his head, he's already told himself he's won. And it's not like, will I hit it when I won't, like, which way will I only go? It's no, which way am I going to run when I hit it? It's all about thinking in the right way.
And that belief in yourself of, I can do this, and how you see yourself, isn't it?
Which I think is quite important in farming, because we feel like there's so many things out of our control, and maybe we use that as an excuse as well. Oh, well, it's not going to go very well because we can't change the weather, but actually maybe we need to get in the right mindset a bit more of, let's do the best possible job we can of everything that we can control, and get ourselves in that mindset of, we're going to achieve that regardless of these outside factors, which obviously throw quite a lot of spanners in the works. But it's about getting on with it as well.
He also said be real though, didn't he? No toxic positivity, as in, yeah, it's quite a dangerous thing, so do be quite real with
You can go to
yourself.
the extreme, too much.
But it's that whole thing, life is going to happen, murder is going to happen, but it's how we react to it. That's what determines the outcome, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that I hate this term influence of like the whole thing, but being a leader and a manager and taking your staff with you on that journey so that they all feel a part of it means that people are happier and they're more engaged. And if they're more engaged and they're happier, there's less likely to be accidents, they're more productive as well. And everyone just basically has a better day enjoying the job.
Totally. And we're going to come back to this stuff in a minute, but Gina and Rebecca, so this conversation came up earlier, in a family business or business and working for somebody, you can still be a leader. You still determine your own future and your own success. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I definitely agree, because the farming business at home is myself, my mum and my dad. So the idea of having leadership and a leadership structure and a kind of promotion progression idea, it's not there, but actually you can still take some of the concepts that we've learned about, particularly about mindset, I think. And then for Gina, obviously, again, you're working for somebody else, and sometimes it would feel, oh, well, I'm not a leader because I'm an employee, but actually we're in the wrong mindset thinking that way, aren't we?
100%, and obviously, like you say, because I am generally only just a farm worker, but if you think of it as, this is a team, this is not a solo, you're below me. We saw that chart. Did you see the photo that you took? It was the stick figures. It was 3 workers and the boss in the chariot.
Yes, I did say that.
And then it was like the leader is joining in with the team. And then as long as you work as a team, you're not like scrutinized for being, they don't play the card of, oh, you're below me. It would work. It would work. You need to work as a team. Like you say, think of the right mindset.
And I think even if you're a one-person band, it's still that whole thing about leading yourself, leading your business. It's your growth mindset, all the different mindsets that we'll explore. But it doesn't matter, and it's not just about people. It's all about people, but it's not about how many people you manage. It's how you drive your business.
There's a good question here, and it's talking about small businesses. How do you cope with leadership when the older generations are still involved and still feel like they're in control? Now, that is the single biggest thing on the farms. Yeah,
It came up in conversation. Euthanasia came up as well.
Yeah, well, it's basically letting them believe that they still are in charge of that. So one guy yesterday was saying that he struggled with his dad, trying to get new ideas from around his dad, but his dad had an iPad and had a Twitter account because it was already preloaded, and he didn't follow anyone on Twitter. So they followed people on Twitter that they wanted his dad to follow and learn from. So then as the months went on and his dad saw things on Twitter, they realized then, oh, hold on a second, this is a good idea. But it's kind of like impregnated into his dad's iPad. But a lot of it is communication as well. So one of the big things that we did on our farm was have a WhatsApp group with all the employees in, including my dad. So even if he didn't quite know what was going on, he could keep up pace, especially at harvest when everyone's busy. You can't ring 20 people and say, just moving this, we're not bailing that field now, we're going to that one. But if you put it in a WhatsApp group, even if only one person needed to know, but if everyone knows, it just makes things better for everyone.
So everyone was included then as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not like I'm isolated. I'm the boss. Only I'm going to tell you even what to do. Everyone knows what they're doing, when they're doing, how they're doing it. Like I say, going back to working as a team, positive impact. Makes you work harder. You don't feel so isolated or belittled.
And I think that links to that idea of, well, we've been talking about acknowledgement. So acknowledging somebody's question or idea, even if it's probably not viable, it gives people a sense of value. within, so even if it's keeping everybody in the loop, that still makes you feel valued in your team, which is, I'd say, pretty important. And
That's
maybe
the
we're not
main
very
thing,
good at
isn't
doing
it?
that.
Joe, you from a cross-generational business world, what's your thoughts?
Like the thing that I thought I was going to take from it is you were talking about a company called Cook, which like sold £100 million of food or whatever last year, like massive company, started small, grew big, and they had like a strategy and like mission statement, which, you know, it seems all a bit like cheesy and stuff, but maybe that's a way to like get the older generation involved, like sit around a table and say like, right, what are we actually wanting to achieve like with this business, and like have a conversation about it, write some stuff down, and then be like, well, that's what we're gonna try and work to as like a goal.
And somebody said also about, you know, choose the lifestyle you want to live, choose what is really important. Yeah, you can come up with mission statements and vision and all of that, but actually, you know, be true to yourself, find what is important in life, and then you build your strategy or your mission around that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And make choices as if you were where you want to be as well.
Yeah, that was
That
a
was
great
interesting.
point, wasn't it?
That, wasn't it?
Like he was saying about, it was a golfer, wasn't it? And he said, if you were number 5 in the world tomorrow, you know, what would you change about what you were doing right now? And he said, well, if I was, you know, number 50, I'd be having a beer in the bar. And he said, but if I was number 5, I'd be having water, because obviously I'd be taking myself more seriously. And that's the point. Take yourself as seriously as if you were winning.
And see yourself where,
Yeah, see
you know,
yourself where you want to be.
where, you know, if I already own that other farm,
Like
or
if I
already...
can be sat here doing this, trust me, like you
Make it so you make it.
oh, you can do anything.
There's one here actually though about old generations, because I don't want to like hijack the whole thing, but obviously a lot of farms have worked with multiple generations. How do you, older generations don't want to change, how do we get around that? Well, one of the things that we were talking about over the last 2 days is the only thing that's constant is change, and it's being ready for it. If leadership means that you've got to skill yourself to be able to deal with the older generations, to make them believe in the change, then that's what you've got to do.
Well, like that guy was saying, that things are just moving so fast in technology. Like if you don't get on board with these changes that are happening, like in the outside of work environment, then you're just going to get took out. Like you were saying about, was it Uber? Like all the taxi drivers were like, we're not scared about Uber, and then Uber's just took over, like completely.
Yeah,
destroyed their
disruptive
industry.
technologies, you can call it, don't they, where someone outside of your industry invents something better than you know. Like, you know, who knows, Amazon might be selling milk next year. You know, there's stranger things happens. Uber is the biggest taxi company in the world and doesn't own a car.
Yeah.
You know, Blockbuster didn't fear Netflix.
Was the film company with you know, Fiji, they sort of thoughts, and they've got the whole market sewn up, so nobody's ever going to, you know, use the cameras on their phone.
Yeah.
Nokia.
Yeah.
No, what happened to you? Nokia 3210.
It was the world of
Amazing.
telecommunications.
Oh,
Snake
where
too.
for God,
Mm.
snake.
So let's come back to that whole thing about some, you know, some how do you convince mom and dads and right, this is where we need to go.
I think it goes to the point of, you know, when this morning it was trying to make an abridged version of what we were told. Basically, it was a doctor who wanted to try a new technique. 40 odd other doctors said, no, you absolutely can't do that. He wanted to do it, ended up doing it, and it was a
Illegally.
success. He did it illegally, and by kind of questionable means, but anyway. But the point was that he took the plunge, but he also did his research. So he didn't just take the plunge and, you know, there's always unexpected consequences, aren't there? But he could plan for it, and he knew as much as possible what was going to happen. And so if I was going to present something to my parents, I would do my research. I'd make sure that what I was presenting was definitely a feasible option. And if that it wasn't a feasible option, but I could maybe see where the problems would come out, but they were workable. So I'd try and make my case. And I wouldn't just go too gung-ho.
And the other thing, I can't remember where it came from, but the whole thing of influencers kind of thing with parents, who's the people that they're going to listen to, you know, if you go, there's that thing of, you know, some the parent parent-child relationship, but if you can manage to get somebody on board that they actually
bringing in an external
Yeah.
person, he was quite a fan of that, wasn't he? Because everyone kind of behaves a bit better when somebody externals in the heated room, maybe. That was a good idea.
It could even be like having your agronomist on side, talk your idea through with your agronomist, and then you have some backing, you have some of the knowledge, and actually you have some support there if you need to pitch this idea. So yeah, don't be afraid to.
I think
ask for
if
advice.
someone was going to want to make serious change in properly, writing down a pack is not a bad idea like that, and leave it with somebody. Because I think going and presenting an idea vocally, you often can get into a bit of a sparring if both sides are quite, hell-bent on what they want to do.
I wrote down this bit, find common ground to change someone's mind.
Yeah.
So in other words,
Yeah.
like, this is my idea, that's your idea, they're not the same, but try and strip it back to find out which bit you do agree on. And then
In a minute, I'm going to ask you about some your experience of that, but we've had Andrew Wilson on Rebecca's YouTube saying, make the suggestion, sow the seed,
Yes.
leave it for a while, let it grow, let it, kind of germinate. And then in time, the older generation will kind of, get interested and declare, we should have thought of this about, years ago. And that's when it's harvest is quite agricultural.
It will be their best idea
Yeah.
ever.
Make sure you don't remind it that was your idea. Your thoughts on this? How do you manage, and your boss or some other people working on the farm?
Well, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, like, if obviously you've got your boss telling us what to do, then you go and do those things, but you have if, for example, I'll always do everything anyone will ask me, but if I have an opinion or I've got a question, I'll never be like, well, I couldn't ask that. You always put that forward, and whether they like the idea or not, you talk about it. I mean, if they think it's a better idea, you've got a better way of doing it, don't be afraid to bring it up. At the end of the day, you'll never progress if you don't question, you don't ask.
What did you
I think
say?
that-
2,000 ideas. 2,000 ideas
For
and
one
for
good one.
one good idea.
So you don't want to stop people like giving ideas,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're never going to get to that 2,000. You're never going to find that good one.
And says, put that in. There was the guy from Cook, I think they had 2,000 employees as well, and on the kitchen and in the shops and whatever, and they've got this policy that in a certain week everybody can put their ideas in it, and they can ask, when they kind of revisit their strategy, ask every employee about some ideas and how they think the strategy should go. They obviously have something, a structure for it. And some of the buy-in you get from a company, or in a company when it is like that. And he was telling us as well about when COVID hit and things were really bad, and people were saying, they kind of explained that, right, it's going to be a difficult time. And people say, well, I used to have to commute, I'm now not having to commute, so I'll give up that. You can take that money back off me. And various people and do that because they've had that buy-in into this company.
He also wrote appreciation notes to people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying, your farming dad's going to start writing your appreciation notes, but as you can't imagine it. I know, I can't imagine it. But I think the sentiment is there to appreciate people. And it's easy to just, especially when you're on a farm and you're working with family, you are just expected to do. And quite often it just gets overlooked, and people do appreciate you. That's the thing I've noticed.
Thank you.
People do appreciate you, but they just don't vocalize it. They'll tell everyone else, they just won't tell you, which is something that you have to remember. But it's nice to be told, isn't it?
And I think it's important to almost put yourself, if you are a leader and seen as the leader, put yourself in the position of the people who you are leading, and imagine if you were them constantly coming up with ideas, thinking of helping, trying to improve, and you get knocked down every single time. That's demoralizing, and it's only going to lead to a less productive workforce, isn't it, if you're knocked down every single time?
I've had one of these things, and I had Nick Wheeler, who's the owner of Charles Titworth Shirts, and quite a big shed, and he said every week he'll go into the feedback section, and it's mostly negative stuff, but when he finds something good on there, he'll go into that store or and write something to that store, to that person, doesn't matter who they are, and say thank you very much, we've had this feedback, and this is a company, I think 200 million, something like that, and he says the whole sales for that shop goes up for 2 or 3 weeks just because the boss had written in.
Well-
And that's just the one person, but everybody lifts their
It's
game.
incentivizing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So really, if he was a good leader, he'd just send them messages anyway.
That's cheating.
But I've written here similar lines. People support what they help to create. That was a
Yeah.
take-home message I've got in now. And that's it. It's making everyone feel like they're involved and that they're working with you, not for you, I suppose, for the same goal.
Also going back really quickly, you know, I was just saying, you've got like your boss, your farm manager. Say for example, especially on like a family run farm, you don't see very often, especially like on like, how do I say it, like animal farms, like beef, dairy, sheep. They kind of follow in their dad's footsteps. They never really have the dad overpowering them. They always involve them. So anyway, so they also sometimes. So I'm not saying every farmer's like it, because some are absolutely fantastic and then actually think as if you're in the work. They never had to work for someone else. They've always followed kind of in, not saying, like I say, I'm not saying it's every situation, because some, like I say, are fantastic, but they would never like know what it would feel like to be in a worker's position. That's not, maybe not from a farming background or not done that exact specific farming. So sometimes it would be obviously a bit more difficult for them to praise if they haven't had that themselves.
That was that belief, the whole belief system, because we learn from, when you go into whatever job it is, they tell you how to feed the calves or how to plow or whatever, and that instills the belief system. So it doesn't matter, so I can't remember the phrase, but when we believe that, and there's almost no way, and we can change our mind.
It was going.
That was with the monkey, wasn't it?
Yeah. When he said, "Oh, don't deal with him. He's a pain. It's
Yeah.
going to be
So-
terrible to deal with them. As a company, they're going to be awful. In actual fact, they're probably not going to be awful.
Yeah.
Like it's just a learned behavior.
So we really need to make that conscious decision of actually, no, I'm going to break away from that and create a new belief system to achieve what we need to achieve, isn't it?
Like I said, it goes back to the mindset. You have a positive mindset. If you're coming to work, going, it's going to be a good day. It's all going to work out. You do it sometime, have a good idea, forward. It puts you in a different mindset, which puts someone else in a better mood, which kind of creates a stronger bond between.
I think it's all like, it starts with you as well, like, so you've got to look after yourself first. The guy was saying, like, in the aeroplane, when the oxygen masks drop down, you put your own one on first before you can help anybody else. So like, I thought it was good that AHDB had got the it was like nurses around the place, and they were doing like blood pressure tests and like were there to
And mental health
check,
nurses
yeah.
to check. And that's a big part of it. And we base our offering around this: leading yourself, leading your people, leading your business. And that leading yourself and looking after yourself is so important.
I've got here as well, attitude more important than IQ. So it's what-
Yeah,
what you
100%.
just say.
Yeah, I will over IQ every single day.
As you said, like the job market was changing in that it used to be like really skilled, but now like it's more, you need people that are going to do it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Rebecca, we had something on your Instagram saying not all managers are leaders and not all leaders are managers.
I think that's a really good point.
And we had that thing about leaders versus boss as well. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess it's within your business as well, even if it is only a couple of people, it's getting the right people in the right places as well. And not everybody's going to be good at everything. And it's like Katie was saying, so the after dinner speaker was Katie Daney McLean, and she was talking about the fact that she was quite direct, quite to the point, but sometimes members of her team needed a bit more of a kind of a caring ear and arm around the shoulder. But that was a role which was really good for her vice captain to take up. So they recognised their strengths and just played to their strengths. And I think that actually links to what was said about you can try and work on your weaknesses, but then you'll weaken a strength, which I thought was a really interesting point. And actually, should we just concentrate on what we know we're good at and keep building that, and actually delegate some of the other areas where we're weak to somebody else in our business or somebody external to the business as well?
That is working as a team though, isn't it? Properly. Yeah, obviously it doesn't work all the time, but that is a team, isn't it? Everyone's got their own role that's clearly defined, and it's quite, boundaries are set. That's how it works well, and people know what they're meant to be doing.
So please keep on coming with the comments. Tell us where you're from. all of that. Something else that really struck me about Katie's talk last night is when she first came into the job of captain, she tried to be like the previous two captains which she played under, and she wasn't true to herself and wasn't authentic, and it didn't work. And we had a bit of this conversation previously on this, and keeping that authenticity
Authenticity.
Thank you very much. How do you do it? Because yes, and on the social media stuff that you're on, that's important. If you lose that, then it doesn't work, does it?
People see through you.
Yeah.
If you're not your actual self, and people know, they pick up on it. Of course they do. Even to the point that if you're not feeling 100% and you're putting it on, you'll get a message, are you all right? People know when you're not being genuine. Yeah, you
Someone said, I don't love myself, and I know it.
Olly's ill. But no, I think they just see right through it. And I think people, they're not going to get very far if you're not being yourself, because it's actually exhausting.
Yeah, I've got a couple on here. I'm just going to read them out because they all make sense. Leaders need to delegate and show responsibility to their staff, show respect and listen. Farm P says, if you want to influence your future goals on Dad's farm, make your ideas their ideas. And there are many types of seeds to sow. Some might just take a couple of seasons to germinate. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
play the long game.
And then another one, open to everyone. What is a good way of team building in farming?
I like to take everybody out to the pub.
Yeah.
So
Also, I
like get everybody out of the work environment, and there's none of the stresses. I know we have got go-karting on the list. It's like on the bucket list of things to do.
It can be as simple as just going to the pub. It's not like we're big companies with massive kind of budgets for, team building. So something as simple as the pub, or was it Elizabeth who was saying that if they'd had a stressful day or a big day, or they'd had, their red tractor inspection or their soil association inspection, she said she got everybody in and they all just had a takeaway. Well, that is as good team building as spending a load of money on a weekend away where you have to go doing high ropes. I mean, I'm sure people like that, but you know what I mean.
We try and eat together, all of us, if we can, if we're not all over.
How often?
4 or 5 times a week.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah,
We can, yeah.
Well, I just like, if people watch my videos will know, every morning at whenever we finish feeding up, it's coffee time, and we sit round. It's really makeshift. There's just a few chairs, and then we just discuss what we're going to do that day.
So, I work with one dairy business, and they very social. They have a summer barbecue and a winter meal and that. But some of the others in the group, they just said that's not for them. They're not social people themselves. So what do you do with that? And I think maybe something like just having the meal together.
Yeah, well, I think back to the WhatsApp thing, the fact that everyone knows what's going on as well. If you just, we didn't really discuss it the last few days, but I've done stuff in the past with AHDB, funnily enough, and it was on about to make people feel more involved. Say if that day you've got a particular task to do it, rather than go around and say, I want you to do this, and this. So there's like 3 or 4 people all doing a bit to make that task happen. You just get everyone around, or everyone in the WhatsApp, you say, this is what we need to get done today. And then everyone then go, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. And then they all feel a bit more involved as well.
It's their idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
I genuinely think eating together is probably one of the best things, or having coffee together.
Yeah, I've got it written down here that you have brain cells in your stomach.
Well, there you go.
Yes, the kids say that. You have brain
More than a
cells
cat.
the same as the cats, or more than a cat. Yeah, I know that.
People feel more connected when they eat together.
You go, the sisters land on our feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they were saying about COVID, isn't it? And how obviously people's happiness went up because they were eating together. So actually that's in a family setting, but to some extent, people who you work with in, it's a work family, isn't it? So that does get, and they were talking obviously the psychology side of the hormones and things like that. That is socializing without having to, make it a formal networking team building event.
Another question's a good one again. Sorry if they're all with my phone. Do you think you should mix work with personal relationships with staff? Now, I've heard people say in the past, you can't run with the fox and the hounds. And I think that's quite an old way of saying, oh, you shouldn't socialise with your staff and just, you're in work. I've heard other people say, I'm not your mate in work, I'm your boss. And I think that's quite old school. Now, and if you started to treat staff like that, just be like, I'll just go work somewhere else.
The was it Danny Sodergren that we're talking about? So 93% of Gen Z is unhappy in their work and don't feel they belong. And so with an attitude like that, we definitely not going to hang.
Yeah, there was a figure somewhere, wasn't there, about
like
how
in COVID, how many people wanted to quit the job, and it was 96% of people. It was crazy high. Obviously, no farmers in that at all.
Being a farmer through COVID was a very
Cushy number.
like God save it, really.
I know, and people are like,
It
oh,
was
did it affect you?
No,
We had to continue as.
Everything was still, and we had the space.
exactly.
Actually, and
Clear roast,
Matt Phelan from the Happiness Index, the guy from the Happiness Index, which were really interesting. I thought, about happier employees, happier people in the business leads to more profitable. And there's actually now a hedge fund that will only, so they've got a way of the scoring it, and they'll only invest in companies that are happy. So all these employees are happy because they outperform everybody else.
well, I've got it written down here, 38% of farmers are depressed. And I think I would say that's higher. 38% of farmers admit to being
I was
depressed.
gonna say who actually say they are.
Yeah.
Or no one
But
understands.
when it was all the Brexit stuff going on about, I don't know, was it 4 or 5, 10 years ago? How long did we debate Brexit for? NFU did some work looking at different farming subsidies in different countries and how they all worked and what the rates of pay were and this, that, and the other. And they travelled the world and they got all research, and I was like, did anyone just go to the country with the happiest farmers and say we want their system? Because that is more productive.
Yeah.
And that's what they should have done. They should have gone to the Scandinavian countries where they are the happiest farmers and copied their system.
You reckon the Scandinavian countries?
Yeah, Norway, Finland, yeah. I mean, their government makes, if you've got cows or livestock, 2 weeks a year, you have to go on a holiday, and they send relief farmers, relief milkers, or relief herdsmen, so that you've got to go on holiday. It's the law to go on holiday.
I think people find it easier to like disengage from the farm and go and do things as well, because I feel like
Paid for by the state.
but like we find it hard to leave. Like I know coming here, like this is the only place I go. Let's get the violin out. Like, but it makes it quite hard to leave the farm. It's such a responsibility that not many people can relate to, and it is hard to get away. So that would maybe make it more of a normal thing to clear off on holiday, which sounds amazing.
And that was, and we've had so many conversations about how do you bring new people into the industry, and we had this conversation on day one about the farmers still, or a certain part of it has got a reputation for being grumpy, and it's almost like a badge of honor of being grumpy, and that's not how you inspire people. That's not how you bring people on board. So we need to work on that.
And I would say particularly people from a non-farming background who haven't been brought up with the idea of you work all the hours under the sun, or you pretend to everybody you do, even if you don't. We need to give them something that actually makes them want to be involved and commit the time, because it is more time consuming than, an everyday, probably like office job, for example, although we put in some funny hours with that as well, to be fair. But we need to help people see that you can be happy in farming and you're allowed to enjoy your job. And I don't think we're very good maybe at acknowledging that emotions exist, pretty much full stop. But we need to acknowledge that our employees' emotions exist. And it does sound wishy-washy for us to say as farmers, where we're meant to be hard-nosed, aren't we? And not acknowledge it. But we're not. We're still
the
humans.
science says in doing that actually makes you more profitable. So even if you're just interested in money, and that so that is still worthwhile.
Elizabeth Buchanan said in that talk that stand and smell the roses, basically, is what she said. Enjoy the view and don't pretend you don't love it, and laugh at the lambs prancing around, because like who can deny that is the best bit of farming altogether. Don't disagree with me, because it is. But like just enjoying it, there's no shame in enjoying what you do. It's amazing. I mean, I quite often stand and look at the view and go, good God, I'm so lucky.
I didn't write the stats down, but they were talking about people that feel happier at work. It was to do with rate of pay, like money isn't everything to everyone, and even less so since COVID.
Yeah.
And with Gen Z, wasn't it as well?
Yeah.
Our parents' generation, it would have like maybe been about money, but now it's changing.
It's been happy at work. Do you know what's really good? Everyone's like discussing it amongst themselves.
Brilliant.
Great. So there's another one here. Team building it here includes birthday breakfast on the box for every member of staff, and at least one works jolly a year looking at new kit that they might be getting. Someone else says if you don't mix social with your staff, it's like upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah, very much.
You can't beat a Friday morning fry up with your team to get issues sorted and earn an environment. Informal.
A question here from James Faulknell, and we discussed this last night especially. So a question for Charlotte. You seem very confident in a male-dominated industry. What's your advice to young women leading in agriculture? And I think that's true for any some diversity, and we need to get better at that. And as men, we need to be open for that. But also, and how do we stop that kind of male pale stale dominated?
On a very personal level, I have the best person stood behind me, who's often invisible, but always there and going, do you know what? There's no teaching, it is you go and you learn, like there is no choice at all. So that was the best way that I learned. Like I've sat, it's so pathetic, like driving on the road for the first time fully loaded with like big bales. I cried, sat beside the road and cried, but I did it. And now I do it all the time, which is fine. It's just one of those very steep learning curves that you had to do. But I think as far as the broader question, just being present and not so much an inspiration, but just being here and putting yourself forward and not apologizing. Like I'm doing a daily blog, like vlog or whatever it is on YouTube, and not pretending that you know things. Like I'm not going into it telling you the horsepower of a John Deere 726-754 or whatever they are.
That's why.
That's the thing of being authentic though, isn't it?
I don't know that, and I'm not going to pretend I do. So I don't think I can feel any doubt about it, because I'm not pretending that I know it. It is the authentic thing. Just being authentic, you can't really go wrong.
To be honest, like I've always been the type of person anyway. I will never talk about something confidently that I'm not 100% on. If I know my facts, I know my facts are 100%. I can back them up. I will debate it to the end.
I will.
I'm the very stubborn type. But if I don't know, I'll hands up and be like, I don't know. Enlighten me. What do I not know? Teach me. If you want to learn, you learn.
Yeah.
And I think we get more respect from that. And actually,
100%.
it's been able to go out, and sometimes, you do have to prove yourself.
Always.
You do have to
Always.
show that you are capable of doing that job, but it's also about asking for help, as you say, when you need it. But I think on that wider thing of kind of diversity, it was actually scientific proven research that a diverse business workforce, etc., is more profitable.
I think it was about 30%.
It was,
Yeah. And
So like people sometimes think it's like a bit wishy-washy, like it's diversity, but like that guy was literally like, look, these are the figures. Like
yeah,
gonna make
it's not about just being PC or whatever. It is genuinely better for the business, and that includes diverse thinking. If we all think alike, so you can't connect with your customers and the rest.
There was a lady on my table. They employ about 16 staff because it's quite a big dairy farm, and she says I only employ staff that are better at jobs than me. And quite openly, there's staff that's a lot of the things on their farm. The staff can do better than she can, and that's why she picks them. And they know that, and they're appreciated for it.
I have a nice comment here from a man called Ian, who's quite often on YouTube. Hi Ian. He says, we used to be taken to agricultural fairs, AHDB monthly workshops and training sessions, and every 6 months each of us got half a pig for the freezer and a Christmas turkey. That's just it's just appreciation, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah. Big difference.
I've had a question on my TikTok. It was someone has asked, would you say an apprenticeship is the best option for agriculture or a full-time college course?
Well, if you're in Cumbria, there's no college courses anywhere near unless you want to travel to Preston. So an apprenticeship would 100% be.
I think it depends on the person, doesn't it? Really.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Like Emma worked for us. She was originally doing a college course and 1 day a week, and then she was like, I don't like the college side, but I like the 1 day a week that I'm doing. So then she went on to being an apprenticeship. So she was in work all week, basically. Yeah.
I think you're dead right. It depends on the course, it depends on what's available, so. But I think, so it is just getting involved and get stuck in and do things, yeah.
I think social media helps that as well, because you're showing, we often get a bit of stick for messing around on TikTok, and it's, it's for the kids. We're reaching kids that no one else can, and we're literally putting farming on the screen in front of their face. And, and if 2 or 3 kids get inspired by Gina on the huge tractor, bossing, driving, which I couldn't do, that's the best way, I think, to go about it. And
I definitely couldn't.
it's so valuable, isn't it?
But follow your dreams. If you have such a strong love and passion for it, and I firmly believe if you don't have that strong passion for farming, you're not in the right job. You've got to love what you do to be able to put in those hours. And like I say, I was on minimum wage for 3, 4, 5 years before I started progressing up to a bit better. And it's like, yes, you're not going to be like, yeah, rolling in it. You can do as many hours as you like. That's not going to bring it all in. But if you love your job, money isn't as such a massive object.
That was a big theme.
It's a hot topic last night.
Yeah.
And I think when they were mentioning you said if you're not passionate about it, you're in the wrong job. They've been talking, the speakers have been talking about the fact that it's almost not you leaving a job or getting sacked from a job. You're going to find enjoyment in a job elsewhere, which I thought was actually quite a good way of putting it, in that you could come across as actually an unreliable employee, an unproductive employee in the wrong job, but it's because you don't enjoy it.
It's your environment as well, isn't it? You said about nurturing people's environments and not just saying you're doing something wrong. It's more looking at the environment first and checking that that's not the thing that's making them negative.
Of course.
Quite a lot on here again. Someone saying farming is a lifestyle, not a job. So did we do that? The other thing, a lot of farmers are lone workers, and the only time that they socialise is in the livestock markets. That's the point. We're talking about leadership and leading people and managing staff, but there is a lot of farmers that are just one-man bands. And if the livestock markets aren't there anymore, where are they going to meet and how are they going to mix? I mean, this is nice because people are all chatting amongst themselves and they're all watching because they've got a similar interest in it. So I suppose stuff like this can help. Guy from Denmark says, do you guys have the same problem with getting qualified staff onto the farms because of the amount of manual labour? And what do you do to make the workspace more attractive? Now,
we had a similar one from Callum Barber here, and how do you keep staff motivated when struggling to upgrade equipment? So yeah, a couple of those. Let's chat about that.
I mean, are there that many jobs on farms that are manual now?
Not really.
The veg sector maybe.
Or dairy, there's a lot.
Livestock, yeah.
So 100%, but I've noticed it's going into more. I'm not doing any livestock anymore.
It's like
I
the
watch what I
guy
eat.
was saying, like technological revolution. It's like hitting off. Was it the fourth? Is it like the fourth technological revolutions like happening now with artificial intelligence? Basically, like you can type into a computer, draw me a picture of whatever you want, and
An astronaut on a horse.
Yeah, astronaut.
That's what it was.
There for you.
Yeah.
I don't know how drawing the picture helps farming, but like basically what he's saying is that AI is coming in.
Yeah, and that was quite amazing. It's not find a picture that were previously created of an astronaut on a horse. The computer did that. The AI did that.
Yeah. Just back to the one-man bands markets not being there, whatever. AHDB does now, not an advert, but the monitor farm meetings. There's a guy behind us on a strategic farm. So they do farmer meetings on different farms or different places. And not only is it a social event, you also will learn something while you're there, and you get value for money back from your levy by attending them. If you don't turn up, if you don't go to the buffet, you don't eat.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well, we talked quite a bit about mentors. If you're a one man or a one woman band, you could still get a mentor, that person who you look to for advice, and it's a bit more formal than calling up your friends.
Just ring
It's-
Martin.
Me too.
But yeah, a mentor is potentially something that you could.
That was quite an important conversation that came up, the difference between a coach, a mentor, and a friend. And yes, so they all have a place, but as good chewing the fat, in the pub with your mate. But actually, sometimes you need a bit of that structure. So identify somebody connect with them. We've actually got some resource on our AgriLeader labor life cycle on how to be a mentor and how, just a bit of structure to that relationship, but find somebody that's been there, done that. And they'll love it because, so they can share that information. We've had a couple of guys here that were, some older, and they were saying, they would love to be a mentor because, they want to share that.
Mentor sounds such like a quite an important name for someone. But realistically, if you actually think about it, we've probably all got them in our lives. Someone that will ring them back.
Well, I was just going to say, I think me and Charlotte have got you as a mentor.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Like when I first started YouTube and stuff, they're like, how do I do this? I'll ring Ollie.
Well, it's the same with me and Tom. I hadn't have a clue what I was doing, and I messaged Tom, and he's like, "Oh, ring me," and Tom's explained to me how YouTube works, and then Tom rings me up, and because I'm 10 years older than him, the stuff that I'm doing in the business, that he's doing in the business now and invested and pushing on, that I've already done. So I like mentor him on other stuff, and you wouldn't call it mentoring, but in reality, that's kind
I must admit, if I could ring Emma, who's obviously not here today, in Butte and say, I have had an absolutely hellish day. This has happened, this has died, this is it. And she'll go, oh my God, I know exactly how you feel. It just that having that relationship with someone that you can compare sad notes is quite nice. You're not quite as alone, because it can be quite a lonely thing when everything's going wrong.
Brilliant comment here on Rebecca's YouTube saying, why would I want to get into farming when in a few years I will be replaced by modern machinery? All farming videos are watched around full of modern technology, replacing manual labor. Do the group agree or disagree? Do you remember that picture of the bus?
Well, what I was going to say is the exact comment rounding up the couple of days was, there is always going to be a place for humans, basically because we have emotions and we have that empathy and those, feelings. We're always going to need humans. So yes, labour requirements may be reduced, but you're still going to need us. And also you still need humans to some extent to interpret some of the data. Yes, it might all be gathered by technology, but there's still sometimes a human eye that's needed on the data. It can't all be computer driven. So I would like to say that I would have more optimism than that.
I think the quote was, be human-led, technologically enabled. And there was a great picture of this bus were going around like a cliff, and one side was the cliff, some cutting, and the other side was the view across the valley. And so one person was sitting looking at the rock face, and the other person was looking out of the valley, and the guy sitting at the rock face was, AI is going to replace my job, and the other guy's AI was going to replace my job. As how you see that. So there's always going to be a place, but it's how your mindset is. And there was a big conversation around growth mindset and how we see things.
I think as a livestock
technology's
farmer
hitting
as
every-
well,
It's hitting every industry as well, isn't it? It's not like, we're just having a technological revolution in agriculture. It's happening in construction. It's happening in every other industry. So if you're not on board with it, then you'll get. I think one of the things was it be brave or
Be dead.
be dead?
Yeah.
He did say as well, today is the slowest that it'll be changing. World will be changing the slowest today.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Ever, and it's only going to speed up, and it's never going to be changing as slow as it is today. So just get on board with it.
90% of the world's data is only 2 years old.
I couldn't
How
believe
crazy is
that.
that?
But it's kind of like we've got to produce more food in the next 30 years of agriculture, or 40 years of agriculture, as we have in the last 10,000. Like, that's just incredible.
It's mind blowing, isn't it?
But
And then
that as an opportunity for the industry you're in, that fact.
Oh yeah.
So it's
They've been
wow.
saying it for 10 years, like.
Actually, we
Still
need
spin.
we need the technology then. If we
You
get
know, but you
figures
can't
like
do
that,
that,
which are mind blowing, we're not going to do it by plowing fields with horses and scattering some seeds, are we? We've got to keep progressing. And I guess people who would have farmed with horses would never have seen.
Sorry, just dead quicker, people. The camera's broken, but the audio's still working. So if anyone, we are fixing it at the moment. So if
We just
anyone's
got my
thinking
YouTube
why, what's going on,
I don't
everyone's
know.
sending a message saying the camera's off or the audio is working.
We'll do that. So just to remind everybody, we talk about saying you don't need a title to be a leader, and how we can change things and how we see things, and how we lead ourselves, how we lead the people in our businesses and how we lead our, lead the businesses. And so, let's talk a bit about that leading self piece, so how do you look after yourself, because actually, not looking after yourself is very, very selfish, because if you're not in the best possible physical and mental shape, you're selfish because you're letting the people around you down. So working yourself to the ground is actually very selfish. It's not it's not good.
That's why I came to this event this year and last year, because I came away like feeling inspired, driven, and in a better frame of mind to go back to the farm and to take everyone else along and push on. This year I've not really felt, because not felt well. Got the learning.
Yeah. Joe, as your first conference, what's your thoughts on that leading self? What are you going to change? What are you going to do differently?
I think it's just the growth mindset. I think we're going to try and change the positive, just thinking positively about everything, and then I think good things will follow from that.
Gina, what are you going to do differently? What are you going to change?
I wrote it down. I've gone mind
Everything will come back to you. You're not going to get off. We'll come back to you.
I would say we're all probably quite lucky in that we're able to justify the time coming to things like this, because we've got people who are helping us out at home. But I would say it is, and I'm all over the place and leave a lot to my parents at home, but I would say taking the time to choose the right events and things like this to come to. You don't have to go to everything, but it's taking the time to look outside of the farm, I think. And yeah, you don't have to go to every event, but looking outside the farm might be as simple as going to your local ag show and chatting with a different tractor dealer to who you usually deal with. It doesn't have to be coming to a conference if a conference or a forum isn't your thing.
Charlotte,
I think I'll take away, it was more something that happened afterwards. Me and Gina were talking to a lovely man, weren't we? And he was on the other side of another gentleman who was sat next to us, and we were talking about social media in general, and we were a bit like, oh god, it's so embarrassing, and he said, no, that's amazing, like that's really amazing, you're inspiring people, you're doing this, you do it, and he really gave you a good pep talk. The man in between us, he was maybe slightly older, didn't get it. He couldn't stop laughing that we earned any money off social media, for one. And he just didn't understand. And I thought, I took away that not everyone understands it, but don't let that affect you in any way, and don't let it lessen your message or make you feel any less just because certain people don't get the value of you.
Back on the leading self, don't let those things affect you.
I've got someone asking me here, how do you start a YouTube channel? I did it by accident, and if you want to start a YouTube channel to make money, it will fail. If you want to start a YouTube channel because you enjoy doing videos, you've got a chance of it going.
It's hard graft.
I was talking to someone last night who didn't understand it all, and I was showing them the statistics behind the watches, and only 1.7% of the people that watch my YouTube channel are under 17. The rest
mine
are
are all over
17.
and
there's 8.6% are over 85. Which is just staggering, really. And it's a bit like the guy with his iPad, and his son put Twitter on it and put the right people to follow. He obviously can turn it on and he can watch stuff, but he doesn't know how he's got there. What they're watching. It's not for kids, social media. Well, no one turns the telly on anymore, do they? So.
No, they don't.
No, exactly. You think about it in the evening. Not many people sit and watch TV. They sit scrolling. They sit scrolling through their phone, whether it be Facebook, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Instagram, whether it be TikTok. Like, it doesn't matter what age you are, people will have it. You'd be shocked to some of the people you go, I would not expect you to have social media, and they go, I've got it all.
They're private, but they've got it all.
Yeah, exactly. They might not show anything, but they see it all. And they're learning. So,
And you can just tap into the bits that you're interested in.
exactly.
So if you've got an interest in farming, you can just watch farming things.
I'm going to drag it back to that, leading self, looking after yourself. I don't think we've explored that quite yet. So, so what do you do to make sure, so yes, come to things like this, but what other things do you do to make sure you look after yourself? You're in the right state of mind, or right physical health.
If I'm having a bad day, I tell people. So when someone says, how are you? I don't say, I'm fine.
How are you?
Say, actually, I've even done it tonight. I'm like, oh crap. You know, I'll say, no, actually, this is, 20, 30, 40, 50% today. Well, someone said, why? So I'll tell them. Then you generally find that they'll say, oh yeah, I've had this happen to me today. And for 5 minutes, you both have a moan and both feel better and you carry on with your day. And that's the thing I learned. After losing my friend with depression is understanding that if you're not having a good day, just tell me.
We're having that conversation last night around, if you don't say it and then you kind of try to carry on and then you snap at somebody, that's actually really unfair on both parties, isn't it?
I think it's really hard though to specifically think what I would do to look after myself. Like I don't know what that is. I mean, I had a nap today. That's about but maybe that
We
is
went
it.
to the gym.
Yeah, but I think you already do.
Well.
It's resilience, isn't it? And you were moaning today to us about something, and that made you feel better. You're naturally already good at doing it, but there's a lot of people that are just
Bottled that up.
yeah.
I'm an artist.
Maybe
I am,
that's
and
why
I have an outlet.
end up being okay on social media because we don't mind offloading stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You're so
Maybe.
right.
So let's go,
Yeah.
Charlotte, and
It's just an outlet, isn't it? It's something to release, when you're stressed. I know it's not farming, it's completely different. It's nothing like it, but that's what I do. And I don't do it as often as I should or as often as I'd like. But you find something you enjoy to. I used to go running. I don't anymore. I can't be bothered, but I did used to go running, and that used to be a release.
Tina?
As I say, if you are having a bad day on social media, like you say, if you try and put a front on, people know.
Yeah.
Like, they know the true you, the real you, whether that's sarcastic, outgoing, loud, irritating, honestly myself. They'll know if you're having an off day. And the thing is, they won't judge you for it. Nowadays, people, it's such an exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a broadly spoken about topic now that no one is actually going to judge you. If you're having a bad day, yeah, that's normal. Everyone has bad days, everyone has good days, but you've got to take each day as it comes. Try and think of the positives, talk about it if you are feeling really down and in the dumps. And then you can only progress from there.
This is a good point. Anything as simple as walking the dog away from the farm.
Yeah.
That seems tiny, doesn't it? But the impact that can have is absolutely massive. So I think, and find what works for you. And it's like when we talk about team building, it doesn't have to be some absolutely massive groundbreaking thing. It's just something simple that works for you.
String, marshmallows.
You really enjoyed that.
How-to video.
Or the rock, paper, scissors one, that was good fun.
That was very good.
That was really good fun.
Yeah, it was quite amazing the how far people are willing to go to try and win a spaghetti marshmallow challenge. So
We definitely won, and we didn't get any.
And we
But
definitely
it wasn't-
definitely won.
it wasn't about the spaghetti towers, and it clearly said it's about connecting with people, it's getting to know people. And you all got distracted.
It was still stood up an hour later.
Because also, when you had to write down, it was something about your personality traits or whatever at one point, and one of mine was competitive. I mean, obviously, I feel like most of us probably would have had competitive somewhere in there.
Mine was
That
exactly what
challenge.
Gina just said, loud, annoying and hyperactive, something. along
Yeah,
those lines.
Right, so back dragging it back a bit. How do we get the whole idea of leadership and management here? Because some people feel it's for, people over there. It's not for me. How do we get it but more normalized? How do we, get people engaged with it?
I think that's interesting because actually, like one of you was saying before, I can't remember who it was, unless you've been in the position of the employee, you wouldn't understand what it's like. So the people who are the employees will often make the best managers because they can relate to the people that are working underneath them. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I'm just mean, they can understand.
I worked in an industry before coming to farming after I've been to uni, and all they did was promote people from within. So like you started at the bottom, and if you wanted to get to the top, you had to do every single job to get up there.
Right.
Which I think we do as like on family farms, you do that, don't you? Because like you start like doing washing the lorry out or something like that, and then you work your way up.
That's a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing because they're not bringing any new ideas into the business, are they?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
I guess it's a
Unless
balance.
they bring external consultants in to coach them and mentor them and whatever.
Mm.
But if the managers at the top, all they've ever done is hire out cars, because that what you when you're
Yeah, we're enterprise, yeah.
yeah, it could make it stale as well. Like someone coming in from the side with fresh ideas from a different industry could do it better. I mean, you know, that's what the airlines did, wasn't it? Stavros from EasyJet coming and turning airlines on the head.
Mhm.
Like, why does the price go up? Why does the price get cheaper near the time? It should go the other way, and then suddenly the airlines are on the head, aren't they?
I think it varies depending, you know, on the situation. But if you're in a company and they always bring in people at the top, that's really demotivating. You know, if you haven't got that progression. So I guess it works both ways. How else do we make it more, you know, more normal? How do we get more people involved and actually spending time on it? Because that's, you know, it is actually such a crucial part.
To get people into the industry, you mean?
No, involved, you know, people in the industry. How do we get them more involved with leadership and management and, you know, spending time on it? You know, a lot of people they'll go, you know, to a monitor farm or, you know, something technical, but this whole idea.
I think it's just people knowing that the things are happening. That's the thing. There's so much good resource that's, I want to say free, but really it's been paid for already out there. And people just need to realise it's there. The sad thing is that there's people that have got so much help, but they've not helped themselves by even looking to see if it's there. Like the room of people yesterday, they'd all thought, right, I want to push on, I want to improve myself, I'm going to go, and then they've got something out of it. Well, there'll be people out there, and what's the point? What's the point? And if you've not gone, you wouldn't know. The first one I went to was only because I knew Amy, who used to work here. She's like, oh, you should go start, you'll really enjoy it. And she was right. And I've said to people, come along, and it's really good. But it's getting people to realise that it's there, it's useful, and to make that first step.
And I think people need to know that, like, if you are invested in this sort of thing, it's gonna pay dividends for your business, like money wise. It's not like a wishy-washy thing. It's gonna earn you money.
It's just the fact that you might be able to retain staff better. Or, you know,
Rebecca?
That's makes it easy.
I was going to say exactly what Joe said, in that we have to help people learn that making these decisions, implementing leadership, improvement, whatever, is going to be profitable for your business. It's going to be more accurate. Your employees will be more productive. And I think, unfortunately, you know, I've said it today, oh, you know, we need to think about emotions and feelings and whatever. Unfortunately, farms are going to usually have to be driven by, is that going to return profit for me? You know, that's, albeit we don't always see ourselves as businesses enough, people really need to have that buy-in that there will be an investment, there will be a return.
I think it's like difficult with farms, because it's like a farmer will go and buy this new fancy tractor because he's going to save him like 2% on his fuel or something like that. Whereas, like, if that money had been invested maybe in some leadership training or something along those lines,
keeping staff longer.
You can be a leader of yourself.
I was going to say,
You've got to have the confidence, and like the doctor guy that came up with some new thing on heart surgery. He wanted to take other people with him. They didn't want to go, but he led himself. He had the motivation to do it himself, and that's the thing. Because someone's put here, oh, you know what? There's only me and my dad on the farm. You know, what about team members? This, that, and the other. But you can, by coming here and coming up with new ideas, fresh thinking, and a positive mindset, you can just push yourself forwards more. You don't have to lead 10 people that work for you. You can just lead yourself in a better way. I think, right, you know what, I'm going to do this because it's a good idea and I think it'll work and I believe in it, and let's go and drive your business forwards. Then it might only be you might only be the only employee. Something
really that resonated with me today was Jamil said, you know, if you've got two parallel lines,
you've only got to be 1%.
You only need 1 degree, and you know, so when the line starts off, that's not going to be a big difference. But in the end, you know, it's going to end up over there. And I think it's the same with leadership. You know, it doesn't, you know, appreciate something like this might be something very difficult, but so just do something small. Go online. We've got some resources. Do something small. And you know, it doesn't have to be this grand gesture. Just get involved. Just do something. You know, 1 degree. So when you remember, try and do something. You know, so, and so that over time will end up in a great, you know, big result at the end of it. So I think that's maybe the first step. Is that make a small first step.
Yeah.
Right. I think so. What I'm going to do in a minute is go around each one's and one take-home message. You know, and for people out there, what's your thoughts? You know, some on whatever we discussed here. So this time I'm going to start with Joe. So your take home message.
Right, so my take home message was, I think one guy said, be a winner who creates other winners.
Yes, I like that.
And I like that as a quote. I thought
Yeah.
that's, yeah. I
Yeah.
just wanted to double check that I was reading that right then, but yeah,
Take
That's-
people with you.
yeah.
Yeah. Tina, your take home message.
My take-home message would be that. I've got my blank again.
So Tina, we've had a comment on your TikTok from Yorkshire Farm Lass. Do you know Yorkshire
Yes,
Farm
we
Lass?
do.
Yeah, right. So the employees are most productive when treated as equals to the people in charge. So thought we know their boss, we are workers, and they have the checkbook, they treat people as equal. So I guess it's back to that, you know, the whole hierarchy things that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, seeing people on a level with you and not seeing yourself as above someone is quite a nice thing on a farm, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'd be like, just make sure whatever you do in your work environment, you work as a team and just really push yourself to ask questions and don't be afraid to feel like you are any less than anyone else that's there, really. If you can. be as
You're there for a
popular as-
reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've hired you. You haven't just rolled into it. They would have said yes to you. You've gone to your interview. They want you. Do your best. Give it your best shot.
Be the best version of yourself.
Of yourself. There you go.
Yeah. Right, Charlotte. Take home.
Positive mindset, definitely, and knowing your value and not questioning it so much, I think. Like explaining it to people from maybe not so much a farmer, you know, like associated things, and they, you know, they really do go, oh, that's amazing, and you go, oh, yeah, it's actually quite amazing,
Yeah,
isn't it? You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's an
We
amazing
really
job to be in. We're so lucky. And yeah, I do take that away.
It is actually quite interesting with the speakers that we bring to this. They, you know, we always try and bring people from outside of the industry, and people's got such a goodwill and such a fascination with farming, and we really don't sell that very well, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just take it for granted
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
don't we?
Just really simple, just back yourself, and that's all about the mindset. It's creating that positivity, and albeit I'm absolutely useless at golf, that envisaging yourself as how you would behave if you were the top 5 in the world, because we can all do that. You don't need to go to a forum or a conference or read some complicated book to envisage yourself as the best version of yourself. You can just do that tomorrow.
If you, if you believe you're the person, you know, if you're going to be the best inspirer of that team, or you're going to be the motivator on that team, if you are going to be the best person like that, how would you behave? And then actually then already start behaving like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've sort of already said it, but leadership isn't just about leading people, it's about leading yourself. And if there's events like this that come up, don't think I haven't got 5-10 staff, I don't see the point. You will go and you will improve yourself. And one of the things I've written here, which was learn to dance on a shifting carpet rather than be tripped over by the rubber being pulled. And that's like, you know, it was at another conference similar. They were talking about running a business and problems. Every day there was a problem, a different problem, and another problem, another problem. And then they got talking to someone else from another business, and they just turned around and went, that's what running a business is. It's just solving problems every day, and you won't know what they are until they happen. And once you get your head around the fact that it isn't just me that has all these problems, it happens to everyone, then you can start to relax a bit and think, well, that's just life, and you just go on with it. But yeah, positive mindset will make you a good leader, I would say.
Brilliant. Right, in a minute we'll remind everybody of who you are, what your handles are, and all of that. But if you're interested in the research, it's called Bridging the Gap, AgriLeader Bridging the Gap report, or go and have a look at our labour life cycle resources. You know, there's stuff on there about mentoring and how do you manage people, and just take that first little steps, and you know, so go and have a look at that. You know, so become a mentor, or somebody to become your mentor, or how do you treat people, manage people better. So, you know, so take that first little step. So that would be my take home and my little plug for us. So Joe, remind people who you are.
So Joe Seels, what we're saying on like TikTok and
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah. So find me on there if you want to check me out.
I'm Georgina Sammut. You'll find me on TikTok, Instagram. So if you have any questions, my Instagram DMs are always open, and I will have to scroll through any appropriate ones in a sense of keep repeating, please, because I will not respond to anything not. And I can do my best to help you with anything of the sort.
I'm Charlotte Ashley. I am on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, anything. Yeah, likewise, the same as Gina. Like, yeah, DMs are always open. You forget to say that, but yeah, if anyone ever did need anything.
And can you just say hi to Zoe Bell from East Anglia? Big fan of yours, and I believe she's watching.
Hi to Zoe Bell from East Anglia.
I'm Rebecca Wilson on Instagram and YouTube.
I'm Olly Harrison, or Olly Blogs, or Agri Contract on most of them. I am not going to say my DMs are open, and it sounds really selfish, but there's a reason, because I do get that many messages, and sometimes I don't see them for days, and then when I open them, I feel really bad that I've not replied to someone, and it's been like a question, or someone's been worried about something, and I feel bad that because I've not been able to get to. So please don't think I have got time to reply to everyone's messages, because I really haven't, and I don't want to make a promise I can't keep it. And I think you lot might regret it.
I think I just said that.
Yeah, just be very careful, because
You can let people down.
yeah, and that's
You have to respect that. So they are in your message request at the end of the day. I'm not going to say I'm going to sit there all day reading everything. Everyone's going to say, you haven't got time for that. We've all got jobs and let's get on with it. But if I get a chance to, especially like they got a question about something that I know I can answer. Oh,
Yeah.
but I can't have everything.
Yeah.
I'm
At
not-
present,
I'm
I
not-
need
someone
everything
wants to send me a
and
message, you
apply
can
for
do,
every
but
comment.
I must
can't.
Anyway, guys, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me. For all of you on all the various channels, thanks for joining us, and sending in your comments. That really makes this alive. And like Ollie said, some chatting there amongst yourself is what this is all about. It's a community. It makes it great. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Bye.
What does Joe say? She's waving.
And we didn't have a YouTube channel.